Yes, you read the title correctly. Your favorite part-time CoD YouTuber has returned to cover yet again another campaign. This time nearly 6 months after release. Regardless, here we are. You know the drill at this point. I've played every CoD campaign on Veteran, and now it's time for the most recent title, Modern Warfare 2. Let's get into it. As you could expect, I was very excited going in, as I am honestly for every title, but especially for this game because it not only is a sequel to the fantastic 2019 Modern Warfare, but also because for this MW2, they decided to go with the visuals and vibes from the original, which I think is a very smart move. Capitalizing on people's still very strong nostalgia for the original by bringing back the iconic batch of characters with an overall similar tone and color palette, I just couldn't agree more with the direction. Like I did for the previous 2 titles, I played through the campaign twice, first on regular, then again on veteran to stick true to the challenge. Again, there is a realism option described as veteran with limited HUD, which I can't imagine is too much harder. Regardless, I didn't play it. Also, just so you know, extreme spoiler alert. With that said, once I painfully navigated my way through the menus, dodged all the annoying pop-ups, downloaded a teraflop of game files, and spent 15 minutes researching how to even start the campaign without Xbox Live, it was finally time. Just to be clear, this is a sequel to 2019's Modern Warfare, which was a reboot, meaning new telling of the story. In that game's final cutscene, it was revealed that Kyle from that game actually had the nickname of Gaz, and Soap and Ghost were both name dropped. So as you'd expect, they're all here now, once again together as Task Force 141. I'll just say right off the bat, this game is fantastic. The story, not as much. The rough synopsis is Task Force 141, with the assistance of Kate Laswell, under the command of General Shepard, go after Iranian terrorist leader Hassan, who is seeking revenge on the US after the assassination of an Iranian arms dealer several months earlier. During the several attempts to apprehend him, the crew discovers he's in possession of American missiles, that the cartel and Russians are involved, all while further alliances are made with the Alejandro Vargas-led Mexican Special Forces and the Phillips Graves-led Shadow Company. Now with this even larger team, they attempt to prevent all 3 missiles from launching, all while they have to deal with political red tape, the cartel's secret leader El Nombre, and the betrayal of Graves and Shepard. After freeing Alejandro from prison, killing Graves, and extracting info from the now captured El Nombre, aka Valeria, the crew does eventually stop all the missiles and Hassan himself. Now there's a lot of good stuff going on here. The story is by no means terrible, but the whole 3 missile storyline with a super so-so villain is where it falls apart for me. Maybe if we were talking nukes, chemical warfare, or something a little more intense, I'd be more into it. Just the cat and mouse chase with the missiles wasn't too impactful for me. I want to make it clear early, this story is alright. I still very much enjoyed it and was engaged, but the unresolved Valeria storyline, and phew, the plot point with the capturing of Hassan and then immediate release because of political reasons, that was a series low point in terms of writing. Now they did later release a cutscene for Season 3 of Warzone, pretty much wrapping up the Valeria storyline, but still. I do have to commend the betrayal plot twist though, I did get quite a kick out of that. The idea of Shepard turning bad, leading the crew to fight back against orders, I thought was a very solid story switch up. Like I always do, I derived very satisfying movie-like entertainment from the story. The dramatic heights here are higher than ever, even though this is one of the most grounded, realistic stories yet. The structure of action, then stealth, then action is sort of here, but not as formulaic as in the past. There's less old mission cliches, and instead there's a lot more unique new gimmicks that provide quick bite-sized action and fun, and overall require more strategy to get through than your average run-and-gun CoD mission. There are quite a few of those slow walk, cutscene-y sections, but they fill in the story blanks, so I don't mind them too much. And lastly, for the fans, you know they had to include some old references. Some are quite obvious, while others are very subtle, but I'm a sucker for callbacks. Big shout out to the devs for all the fun nods. First, with the returning faces, Captain John Price again is great. I still am a fan of this newer version of him. Kate and Gaz return here as well, and both are fine, nothing too special. Now for the new interpretations of Soap and Ghost, first with old John McTavish, I think the actor they chose was perfect. He not only nails the look, but the accent as well.
You're going down for what you did.
Stay here and spawn me. Wait for my go.
Now for old Simon Riley, next level badass look. I love the style they went with him, with the 3D mask combined with the overall shady vibe. I'm just a massive fan. At one point he does have his mask off and you think they'll reveal his face, but instead they just show him putting on the OG ghost mask, which was awesome. They then fake out another possible face reveal at the end, but again they hold back, which I appreciate. I prefer the ambiguity. Now people have dug up the player model, combined with just looking into the actor who played him, to then finally discover what he actually looks like, which is a bummer. But I won't stoop to that level, and I'll keep it a mystery for you guys. Overall, with the returning icons, I really liked how each was written. The dialogue between characters especially, it does a lot for building the chemistry. And plus, here, Ghost is a proven badass. You actually see him pull off impressive stunts. He isn't just the mysterious, cool-looking guy in glasses and a mask anymore. In terms of other returning faces from the series, Nikolai is here, glad to see him return yet again. Farah from the previous entry returns for a quick cameo as well. Shepard here is the same character from the original. Fun fact, his actor here, Glenn Morshower, voiced the Overlord in the 2009 original.
Hunter 2-1, Overlord, estimate 20 enemy foot mobiles approaching you from the southeast, over.
I want this bastard in permanent custody or looking up at the goddamn grass.
Even Ramirez sort of makes a comeback.
Ramirez, get the fuck out of the room!
Well, a teammate of yours has the potential to share the iconic name, but the connection is not 100% confirmed. Talking about unconfirmed cameos, Riley from Ghost makes a potential appearance here as well. There is one more massive name drop, but we'll get into that later. For the brand new characters, we got a few forgettable ones, but also some highlights. First, Valeria. Though I didn't love her role in the story, I did enjoy her performance. And second, the excellent Alejandro. He felt like a perfect addition to the OG cast of characters. He reminded me of Adler in the way of his inclusion feeling seamless. Now, like I said, the so-so villain, that being Hassan, I'm not a major fan of him. He just never really felt like a major threat like many previous CoD villains have. I do have to add though, Graves, he's great. Back to the new versions of Soap and Ghost, it sucks that they're so likable here, given we know how their futures play out. If they choose to go with the storyline in the original series, let's hope not, because we can't go through that again.
Shepard burned us.
Now, I really don't have much to say about the gameplay here because it's rock solid. Like always, Call of Duty's gunplay to me is the best in the industry. Granted, I don't play too many other shooters these days, but I really think what they've achieved here with how the guns feel, combined with the characters' movements, combined with absolutely incredible sound design, leads to not only a fun experience, but an immersive one as well. Well, I'd say about 99% of the sound design is incredible. The music here really never caught my ear, which isn't a bad thing. I think a stripped back soundtrack can lead to more serious and realistic feeling gameplay. With the weapon roster here, I really don't have anything too insightful to add. All weapons I picked up I thought felt great, looked great as well, and had an adequate amount of ammo. The optics here though, they were really something. Some of the scope effects here looked amazing, especially with that new over-the-top blood splatter. I loved watching each and every enemy splash some blood in the scope upon getting domed. Lastly, with the gameplay, I found myself using the gun mount ability way more than any previous game. That feature really came in handy with the harder sections where you needed to have the absolute least amount of you open to enemy fire. As you've probably already been able to tell, graphics here are again stellar. Like the previous 3 games, the visuals here are really something to marvel at. You will find yourself deep in the uncanny valley with some of the cutscenes present in this title. There were several moments where the lighting, movement, and animation all align almost perfectly to fully trick your brain into thinking it's real life. Right away when the game started me off in this gorgeous desert locale, I knew the graphics were going to be show-stopping. Like I said, cutscenes here, without a doubt, include some of the best looking CG that exists. And for the gameplay, it's pretty solid looking as well. Of course, gameplay is always a slight downgrade from the cinematics. Regardless, I think the locations looked incredible, especially that mission Tradecraft. Whew. That whole level was bonkers on the graphics end. I find myself playing these newer titles nice and slow in order to soak in all the little details and all the effort that went into the visuals. When talking little details, I appreciated all the destructible doors, the night vision aiming accuracy, and all the shells that rain down on you from the above chopper. When it comes to the actual human models, I think they might be a potential graphical downgrade, but overall, they're knocking it out of the park in the visual department. What I was really curious about going in is if they could recapture the look and feel of the original MW2 campaign. There were a few sections that did remind me of the 2009 original, though I'd say they were going more for a newer look, but some sections did tap into my nostalgia for sure. With every new title in this series, there's of course going to be new features, gimmicks, and mechanics incorporated into the gameplay, and here are some of the ones I picked up on. A few small ones to start is a very appreciated new option to either tap B for sliding or hold B for dolphin diving. I also like the new feature of when you reach your final bullet, your secondary will now be brought out automatically. Also with some new weapons, your secondary is brought out and held in a different way, and then 2 other smaller new mechanics / items, whatever you want to call them, is the option to use armor plates and the handy heart rate sensor tool, which you each only have access to in select missions. The armor plate idea is cool, but they really didn't seem to do much when wearing them. Now, we have sort of seen a heart rate sensor before, but not quite like this one. The ability to bring it out at any time you want really added some suspense to the mission it was available in. Where that heart rate sensor is housed is your backpack, which is one of the larger new features. Again, only in select missions you have a backpack that not only contains the sensor but also a bunch of grenade variants. Here it was nice to have access to several types of grenades instead of constantly having to switch them out. In some missions, that backpack also houses crafting items, which leads into another one of MW2's new mechanics. This is a big first for the series, but yes, you can craft items here. Now, it's not the most sophisticated feature ever. You just need to gather either binding, metal, wax, explosives, chemicals, mousetraps, bottles, and or oil to craft up various items to aid you in the mission. I thought the crafting mechanic was a bit too easy and corny in the beginning, but with time it gets a tad more complicated, and I just respect it being here in the first place. Lastly, in terms of new to the series mechanics, there are 2 parts in the game where you have to deal with a missile detonator, which I think is a neat idea and was fun. I just wish the sequences were maybe a little longer and more difficult. And then finally, in this game, while talking to characters, we now have dialogue options. Now, this is not an absolute first for the series, but dialogue options like these have never been seen before. Now, I respect them adding this to the game, but most of the questions and answers are completely pointless and just filled the dead air. The interrogation scene with Maria was a good use for them though, where you had to remember aspects of the story and answer questions accordingly in order to stay alive, similar to a mission in World War II, but besides that exact sequence, the dialogue options are take or leave for me. While playing through the game twice, there were quite a few sequences, plot points, story details, and memorable moments from the campaign that I took note of, and here they are in order of appearance. The game starts with an exhilarating mission titled Strike, where you guide a missile through the desert to a target that ends with a way over the top but epic explosion. That's followed by the insane, entirely night vision mission Kill or Capture, which not only looked incredible but was also quite fun, in a way similar to Modern Warfare 2019's clean house. Next was the mostly water-based stealth mission Wet Work, which had you taking out enemies silently with some of those ever so satisfying throwing knives. Later on in the mission Borderline, you have to climb over a Trump-esque US-Mexico border wall, which I thought was a neat idea for a mission and a new feeling location for the series. Following that was the absolutely beautiful mission Cartel Protection, where while fighting against the cartel, you traverse through some jaw-dropping scenery, then jump off a cliff, and then make your way down a river where you fight the current and ridiculously fire off any weapon you want while treading water. The next two missions, Close Air and Hardpoint, are more of those excellent AC-130 missions. These two are the best yet in the series, in my opinion. Both are super fun because you've got the 3 awesome ammunition types, the hilarious ragdoll physics, the insane sound design, the realistic bullet impact, the multiple filter choices, the destructible buildings, and again the super satisfying blood splattering. Parts of these were definitely tricky, especially with having to dodge the friendlies, but overall both fantastic. Next was my personal favorite, Recon by Fire, a sniper mission obviously influenced by the classic all gillied up mission, complete with identical dialogue lines.
Try to anticipate the paths.
Try to anticipate their paths.
The mission definitely hits on a lot of the same beats as the 2007 classic, but brings a lot new as well, with the really fun to master bullet drop, the very Warzone-esque gameplay where you have to clear some buildings using a variety of possible methods, all within a giant map. This entire part felt very new to CoD with how open and free of rules the mission was. Another highlight was the top 5 of all time mission violence and timing, where you start off in a helicopter, end up fighting upside down, like in Cold War, then have to jump around to several vehicles where you also have to continue killing enemies while leaning out the window, all while avoiding drones, mines, and APCs, all with the goal of reaching a captured Laswell and freeing her. That whole section was just a blast, and again, new ground for the series. After that, you have the anxiety-filled Nombre stealth mission, where you make your way through a house full of cartel members, each picking them off in a variety of fun, stealthy ways. Then you've got one of the wildest missions ever, Dark Water, which has you going from an oil rig to a freight ship, where you then avoid or climb onto sliding storage containers that provide you constantly moving cover or can crush you to death. That part especially was incredible. It definitely was a bit tricky, but an overall well-crafted challenge. The mission then ends with one of those tense missile derailment sequences. Next was the fan favorite Alone, another stealth mission where this time you do a bunch of that earlier mentioned crafting in order to stay alive, using only the scrap materials around you. This is again another very clever, never before done premise for a CoD mission. All the different ways you can manipulate and kill enemies is super fun and unique, especially when you get your hands on that silent crossbow from the safe and find yourself a good cheese spot. Man, it's a good time. Then there's Prison Break, another favorite mission of mine, which includes an extensive security cam stealth portion that has you control Ghost around the prison via given instructions, similar to in the previous Modern Warfare, where you not only kill a bunch of guards, but also plant bombs, which pay off later. Next was mission Hindsight, which was only really notable for me when I simply hit a goat with a flashbang and all hell broke loose. That's followed by Ghost Team, a mission that starts off with the crew all donning ghost masks, similar to everyone's favorite game, and also contains a fun smoke bomb laser dodge sequence and an awesome boss battle against Graves, who you need to blow up in his tank before he blows up all the concrete buildings you have to navigate between. And lastly, there's the final mission Countdown, which starts with you crawling down a skyscraper, again in a way similar to everyone's favorite Call of Duty title from 2013. Not only was that awesome, but you then watch one of the missiles actually go off, to which you then finally capture and kill the man responsible, Hassan, right after you go through a very goofy crafting / missile derailment sequence, which was a bit difficult, but again, quite fun. As you can see, just about every mission had a part or parts that I loved, because nearly every level contained a unique, fun gimmick that required a different skill to learn. I also found myself laughing at quite a few moments throughout the campaign. Not at intentionally funny moments, instead at things such as this never-ending clown car bag of guns. And finally, I can't go without discussing not only the awesome Makarov name drop on the final cutscene, but oh my god, that after credit scene with the no Russian nod, the crazy controversial mission from 2009, that was jaw-dropping. When it comes to complaints not relating to story or characters, I only have a few. First off, like many have been saying, this is quite a glitchy CoD. For me, nothing was too game-breaking. These glitches I witnessed were more funny and entertaining, and definitely no big deal. Another smaller negative for me is the overabundance of the heavily armored enemies. I appreciate the variety, but these guys were too prevalent in my opinion. The game gives you hit markers showing when you've depleted their various pieces of armor, but I'd rather have even more normal enemies than a bunch of bullet sponges scattered throughout. Next rather large issue I constantly ran into was this lighting glitch on almost every single dark mission. What I mean is every light source would be visible through several walls. This was fine once or twice, but it was such a common glitch for me, and it really started to become distracting. And lastly, my biggest issue with Modern Warfare 2 is the continued overly linear nature of the game. For God's sake, take the training wheels off and let us play with less constant constriction. I'm not just talking about the physical map restriction with the invisible walls and the return to war zone areas, it's also the on-screen text, the dialogue assistance, the super obvious objective indicators, the death screen hints, and the in-your-face map highlighting. There's just too much assistance. Us as the players don't need everything so streamlined and spoon-fed. Let us struggle a little and figure it out ourselves. Also, when are they finally gonna let us see ourselves in the damn mirrors? You might be wondering, since I played Veteran, if I had a hard time or not. Short answer, not really. Similar to the previous two games, Regular and Veteran weren't all too different. When I got started on Kill or Capture, that was a wake-up call on the potential increased difficulty, but eventually I got a handle on the slightly harder enemies, and beating the game wasn't too much more effort than Regular. I would only consider 4 out of the total 17 missions hard, with the hardest moments on Veteran including the sniper dodging section in Kill or Capture, the clearing of the second building in Recon by Fire, the big checkpoint gap in Dark Water, the Graves tank battle in Ghost Team, and the skyscraper portions of the final mission countdown. Other than that, you'll deal with some occasional annoying grenades, some tricky checkpoints, some overly sensitive friendly fire rules, and some dragging firefights, but overall, when you already know how the mission played out in Regular, combined with the extremely helpful return to checkpoint feature, and the game's overall very polished nature, this Veteran experience doesn't at all compare to the clunky titles of the past in terms of difficulty. The only differences I noticed on the Veteran run was, of course, harder enemies, maybe longer red screens, and one slight mission difference on Alone where they didn't allow me to get a knife early on in the mission. To wrap it up, I'm a massive fan of this campaign. Even though I don't 100% agree with the direction of the story, I really got a kick out of seeing the fan favorite characters return alongside some unique mission ideas and overall really fun gameplay. I do gotta say though, again, please let's loosen up on the overall linear rigidness of the campaign mode. I have to admit, I do like the dumbed down, simple gameplay present in this mode, but I think we're all ready for more missions like Recon by Fire, where it was an open map with that Warzone-esque free of refrain gameplay. If more missions were like that, I think more people would play and respect the mode. Sadly, these days, I don't have time to sink into the multiplayer or any other modes present in CoD, but I still like to make an effort to play the campaign because I've beaten all of them and the nostalgia hits every time. With that said, I think this will be my final CoD campaign video. They're fun to make, but I gotta focus on bigger projects from here on out. But don't fret, because I will continue to discuss the new campaigns on my second channel, Recollection, in a more informal first reaction sort of way. But when it comes to MWII 2022, consider me a large fan. Hell, there's even talk of a story expansion coming this year, 2023, because of the break in yearly CoD releases. Who knows, but I'm down. If so, you can catch me discussing that as well on the same second channel. But until then, I'll catch you on most likely another music, movie, or video game related video here on Recollect.